right, so today we're gonna try to understand the disappearance and rescue of 14-year-old Emma Javy
Yeah,
from East Patchogue, New York.
absolutely.
A story with a lot of twists and turns.
It really does. It's captivating. You got a young girl vanishing,
Yeah.
a desperate father turning to social media, a dramatic rescue on a boat.
And we want to try to unpack all that.
There's a lot there.
We've got a whole stack of material.
Yeah.
We've got news articles. We've got social media posts from her father, Frank Derves.
Right.
Even insights from experts in missing person cases.
Because the question is, did she leave willingly or was she taken against her will?
Right, and that's what we're going to try to figure out.
Yeah.
So let's start by going back to December 9th,
Okay.
the day she disappeared.
Right.
And we have conflicting reports about what happened.
Yeah, the story initially was that she went to the driveway to get something and simply vanished.
Right.
But then reports surfaced that suggested she might have willingly gotten into a car with someone she met online, which raises a big question about potential vulnerability, especially in the digital age.
Especially for a 14-year-old girl.
Right.
And adding to the complexity, she was wearing a GPS ankle monitor at the time, but it was removed.
That's a crucial detail.
That's a very crucial detail.
Makes you wonder about her background and the circumstances leading up to her disappearance.
Yeah, why was she wearing it in the first place?
Exactly. What does it tell us about her life before this incident?
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's that strange motel sighting in Bohemia, New York.
Leukemia.
Surveillance footage shows her knocking on doors there.
Yeah. Why was she there? Who was she trying to contact?
Right.
This just deepens the mystery around her movements.
This is so weird.
It is very strange.
So after that, things went quiet for a while. Christmas and New Year's passed with no sign of her.
Yeah.
But her father, Frank, didn't give up. He turned to social media, posting daily video updates, pleading for information. He even started a GoFundMe campaign.
This is where we see this double-edged sword of social media. On the one hand, it's an incredibly powerful tool for raising awareness and generating leads.
Yeah.
And in this case, Frank even offered a reward of $155,000, which undoubtedly motivated people to come forward.
Wow.
But could that level of public attention have hindered the investigation in any way?
Right, right.
Did it potentially put Emma at risk?
Yeah, a real ethical tightrope walk.
It is. But in this case, it seems, Frank's persistent use of social media was what ultimately cracked the case wide open.
Oh, wow.
He received an anonymous tip through social media that Emma was being held on a boat at a marina in Islip.
Okay, so this is where the story takes another turn.
Absolutely. Instead of immediately contacting law enforcement, Frank decided to take matters into his own hands. He rushed to the marina, located the boat, and broke down the door.
And he found her inside.
And he did. And there's audio of him describing that moment of reunion. And you can just hear the pure relief and overwhelming joy in his voice.
I can only imagine. Can we hear that clip?
Yeah, let's hear it. You can just feel it right.
It's hard to listen to that and not feel his emotions.
It is.
You know, that wave of relief after weeks of searching, not knowing it's powerful?
However, as understandable as Frank's actions were, his decision to break into that boat raises some serious questions about the legality and potential risks involved.
Right, it could have ended very badly.
Exactly.
If the situation had been different.
Imagine a confrontation.
If he had been armed.
Yeah, the potential for violence or even the chance of the suspect fleeing with Emma before the authorities arrived
Yeah.
is a very dangerous situation.
So thankfully, SWAT arrived shortly after, secured the scene, and took over the investigation.
Yes.
Okay, so that brings us to the suspect, 64-year-old Francis Buckheit.
Right.
He was found living on a boat near where Emma was rescued.
Right.
And he has since been indicted and pleaded not guilty.
Yes.
But this is where the timeline gets a bit fuzzy.
It does.
We still don't have a clear picture of how he fits into the entire narrative.
We know Frank mentioned a man in his 30s, possibly being involved in Emma's initial disappearance.
Right.
So how does Buckheit connect to that?
Yeah, are we talking about the same person?
Or was someone else involved in those early stages?
It's like we've got a puzzle with some pieces missing.
It is. And this is where the complexities of missing person investigations come into play.
Right.
There's a flood of information tips pouring in from various sources,
Yeah.
some of which might be inaccurate,
Right.
intentionally misleading,
Oh, wow.
or even attempts at scamming.
Really?
It's hard to sort through all that noise,
Makes you realize how difficult it is to separate fact from fiction.
especially when you're dealing with a case that's captured so much public attention.
Exactly.
And Frank's belief that multiple people were involved adds another layer to the investigation.
Right.
It wouldn't be surprising if there were additional arrests as the case unfolds.
So where does this leave Emma?
Well, we know she's currently in a facility receiving treatment and support. But what led her to leave home in the first place?
Yeah.
This is where we have to consider the complex factors that often contribute to situations like this, particularly when we're talking about teenagers.
Right.
Teenage behavior,
Okay.
the allure of online connections, the potential for manipulation,
Right?
the challenges they face in navigating the digital world.
It's a reminder that there's often more to the story than what initially meets the eye.
Absolutely. And let's not forget the involvement of Child Protective Services.
Oh, right.
This suggests there might be deeper issues at play within the family dynamics
Wow.
that we're not fully aware of.
Okay.
Hopefully, with the appropriate support and intervention, Emma can heal from this experience and move forward.
We've covered a lot.
We have.
The initial disappearance, the conflicting reports, the role of social media, the dramatic rescue,
Yeah.
and now the emergence of the suspect.
We've laid the groundwork, but there's still a lot to explore.
Right.
In the next part of our deep dive, we'll delve into the broader implications of this case, particularly when it comes to the use of social media,
Yeah.
its potential benefits and dangers, and what it all means for protecting vulnerable youth in the digital age.
Okay. Sounds good.
Yeah. So as we kind of move forward, I think it's important to step back and look at the bigger picture here.
Okay.
Emma's case really highlights the challenges we face in protecting young people in this increasingly digital world.
Right. We can't ignore the role that technology played in
Yeah.
this story, both in her disappearance and in her eventual rescue.
Think about it. Teenagers today are constantly connected, interacting with people online, exposed to a vast amount of information and sometimes misinformation.
Yeah.
It's a completely different landscape than what previous generations experienced.
And it's not just about the risks. Social media also played a crucial role in finding her.
Right.
Frank's constant updates, the sharing of information, the pleas for help, it all contributed to her being located.
Yeah.
So how do we reconcile these two sides of the coin?
That's the million-dollar question. How do we harness the power of social media for good while also mitigating the potential dangers?
Yeah, it seems like open communication is key.
Absolutely.
Parents need to be talking to their kids about their online lives, understanding the platforms they're using, being aware of the potential risks.
Absolutely. It's not about being overly controlling or invasive,
Yeah.
but about creating a safe space where teenagers feel comfortable talking about their online experiences,
Right.
their fears, and any concerns they might have.
And it's not just a one-time conversation.
It's not a one and done.
Right.
It's an ongoing process.
Right.
And it's not just about what kids are doing online, but also about their overall well-being.
Okay.
Teenagers are going through so much emotionally and developmentally,
Yeah.
and sometimes those struggles can manifest in risky behaviors both online and offline.
So we need to make sure they have access to mental health resources and support,
Absolutely.
that they know it's okay to ask for help if they're struggling with anxiety, depression, or any other issues.
We need to break down the stigma surrounding mental health,
Right.
encourage open conversations, and let young people know they're not alone.
It's all connected, isn't it?
It is.
Online safety, mental health, open communication.
Yeah.
It's about creating a holistic support system for our children to thrive in this complex world.
Exactly. And I think Emma's case also raises some interesting legal and ethical considerations regarding the use of social media in missing person cases.
You're referring to Frank's decision to take matters into his own hands,
Yes.
essentially conduct his own investigation and rescue.
While we can all understand his desperation and the relief he must have felt finding his daughter,
Right.
his actions blurred the lines between citizen involvement and law enforcement procedures.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation.
It is.
On one hand, we want to encourage public engagement and support in these cases,
Right.
but on the other hand, there's a need to protect the integrity of investigations and ensure the safety of everyone involved.
Think about the potential consequences. If things had gone wrong during that rescue,
Oh, yeah.
it could have put both Emma and Frank in danger.
Of course.
It could have compromised the investigation.
Right.
It raises the question, where do we draw the line?
How do we balance the benefits of social media with the need for due process and the potential risks of vigilantism?
These are complex issues with no easy answers, but they're conversations we need to have as a society, especially as technology continues to advance and our lives become increasingly intertwined with the digital world.
So it's clear that law enforcement agencies also need to adapt
Right.
and evolve their strategies in this new landscape.
Absolutely.
They need to harness the power of social media for investigative purposes,
Yes.
while also establishing clear guidelines and protocols to prevent things from spiraling out of control.
It's a delicate balance. We need to embrace the opportunities that social media presents in these cases while also recognizing and mitigating the potential pitfalls.
Because at the end of the day, the goal is to bring missing people home safely and hold those responsible accountable.
Absolutely.
And sometimes that requires a collaborative approach
Yeah.
involving law enforcement families and even the online community.
It really does.
And while we've gained a lot of insight into Emma's case,
Yeah,
there are still many unanswered questions.
there are.
The details surrounding Buckheit's alleged involvement remain unclear,
Right.
and the possibility of other suspects hasn't been ruled out.
No.
And what about Emma herself?
Right.
What was her experience during those missing weeks?
Yeah.
What kind of support and treatment does she need to heal from this trauma and move forward?
Those are the questions that linger as we continue to follow this story.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that behind the headlines, behind the legal proceedings, there's a young girl who's been through something unimaginable.
It's important to remember that this is not just a case, it's someone's life.
Absolutely. We need to treat Emma's story with sensitivity and respect, recognizing that she's a real person who deserves privacy and support as she navigates the road to recovery.
Absolutely. And while we can't undo what happened, we can learn from this experience and use it to advocate for policies and practices that protect other vulnerable young people.
We need to be proactive, not reactive.
Right.
We need to create a culture of awareness, open communication, and prevention, both online and offline.
Because ultimately, this isn't just about Emma JV.
It's not.
It's about creating a world where all young people can grow up safe, empowered, and free from exploitation.
That's right.
You know, it feels like we're witnessing a real clash of approaches here.
Yeah.
The immediacy of social media versus the more measured pace of traditional law enforcement.
It's like two different worlds.
Frank's use of social media, while undeniably effective in getting her story out there,
Right.
also highlights the potential dangers of what some might call digital vigilantism.
Uh-huh.
Makes you think about where we draw the line
Yeah.
between public involvement and letting law enforcement do their job.
Guess it. We want to encourage people to come forward with information. Share tips to help in any way they can, but there's also a real need to protect the integrity of an investigation.
If everyone started taking matters into their own hands, it could lead to chaos.
Absolutely.
Misinformation spreading like wildfire, and even dangerous situations for those involved.
Exactly. This case forces us to reconsider the boundaries of investigation in the digital age.
Yeah.
Should there be clearer guidelines for how families and the public can utilize social media to assist in missing person cases without potentially jeopardizing investigations?
That's a tough one. You want to harness the power of the crowd,
Right.
that collective desire to help.
Yeah,
But you also need to ensure that everything is done properly and within the bounds of the law.
absolutely. It's a conversation we need to be having as a society.
As technology continues to evolve and social media becomes even more deeply ingrained in our lives,
Yeah,
these issues are only going to become more complex and more pressing.
more and more.
So as we wrap up our deep dive into Emma's case, what are your biggest takeaways?
For me, it's the human element that resonates most strongly. This isn't just a case file. It's a young girl's life that's been deeply impacted.
Right.
It's a reminder of the very real dangers that exist for young people, both online and offline.
And it underscores the responsibility we all have as parents, educators, community members,
Yeah.
to be vigilant, to educate ourselves about the risks, and to work together to create a safer environment for our children.
It's about fostering a culture of awareness, open communication, and proactive prevention. It's about having those tough conversations, even when they're uncomfortable. It's about making sure young people know they're not alone and that there are resources available to support them.
We can't just sit back and wait for something to happen. We need to be actively engaged in protecting our most vulnerable citizens.
This case, while unique in its specific details, reflects broader societal challenges that we need to address.
Yeah.
The intersection of technology, adolescent vulnerability, and the evolving landscape of crime demands that we be informed, proactive, and adaptable in our approach to safety and justice.
This deep dive has been a journey, and I hope it's left you with a lot to think about. What are your takeaways? What questions are still swirling in your mind? We encourage you to keep the conversation going. Share your thoughts, stay informed, and let's work together to create a future where all children can thrive.
Until next time, stay
Okay.
curious and keep digging.